Welcome. My name is George Landreth. I'm the president of Frontiers of Freedom Institute. We're really grateful you're here today to talk with us about what we consider some very important emerging issues. So what I want to first start off by is asking a couple questions. Who invented the internet? Who built the internet? Who paid for it? Who runs it? Al Gore. That's right. You got it. Actually, no. One thing we have to remember is there are international voices, and that would include some Americans, that think that it would be best for the U.S. to give away the internet. Again, they seem to forget that we invented it, we built it, we paid for it, we run it. I don't know what other country develops something and then just gives it away. You know, I mean, aside from, I guess, the Panama Canal. But anyhow, if you think about it, we produce things. You know, other countries have things that are kind of famous for and well known for. And the question becomes, why should we give this up? We share the internet with the world, and we don't really profit by it. In other words, we don't sell the rights to other countries to connect to our internet. They just can't. And I think that's interesting because we built for it, we paid for it. I don't know what other country would do that. You can ask yourself, you know, what would Putin do? You know, what would China or Iran do? These are some fair questions. But the bottom line is, we've never cut off access to the internet. You know, with Iraq during the, they cut it off to their own people, so they lied to them about what's going on in the war. But we never did. When Iran or North Korea are misbehaving, we don't cut off their access to the internet. And that's an interesting point because, I don't know if you remember, but back in 2009, in the middle of the winter, Putin was involved in some negotiations with Ukraine. Gee, that's in the news again this week, wasn't it? Anyhow, he cut off their natural gas supply in the middle of the winter. And so ask yourself, if Putin were in charge, how would this work? And I have a feeling it would work about the same way that the Russian state national gas company works, which is they just use it to their advantage as an arm of their statecraft, if you will. Ask yourself seriously, if China's involved, if Russia, Iran are involved, are they really going to make sure that there's no spying on the internet? I mean, not that they really could, but would they even try? This is a perfect example in my mind of taking two issues that are completely unrelated and then pretending that somehow one solves the other, i.e. we give them the internet and the spying problem is somehow solved or something. And it's just not true. But it's a beautiful political issue to lean on the current administration and tell him, we're upset with you, you were listening in on us, and now we want you to give us the internet in exchange. I want to just a couple warnings. One, the UN has a Human Rights Commission, and they have had, as voting members of that commission, countries like China and Russia and Syria and Pakistan and Muammar Gaddafi's Libya. Now, what I want to know is, did including those people improve human rights anywhere in the world? I think the answer is pretty clearly no. Now, so the next question is, will including China, Iran, Russia, North Korea, any of these other countries, will that make it more open, more reliable, more transparent? Will it make it safer? Again, I think the answer is clearly no. So the question is, what can you do? And the answer is we have to act quickly, because most in Congress aren't paying attention to this issue right now. But the reality is we need to write our congressmen and our senators. We need to call their offices. We need to tell them that we're aware that there are some in the administration who are prepared to give away the internet, and we want them to A, watch out for this, and B, stop it, make sure it doesn't happen. We can win this issue, but if we lose it, there's no getting it back. Once it's been turned over to an international body, it won't be ours anymore to do that. Thank you so much.
Probably none of you, when you arrived here this morning, thought about the internet as an issue that conservatives specifically needed to care about. You probably also didn't think that energy was something that you specifically needed to care about as a conservative. Look at the photo that's on here, the dark photo that's on here. Those of you who have that and can see it, what is that dark photo of? North Korea. And North Korea and South Korea, correct? And John, you want to, if you want one, raise your hand and John will give it to you. But when you look at this picture, you can see the role that energy plays in freedom. You look at North Korea, which is a communist country, and you see that it is totally what? dark at night. And then you look at South Korea, which is a free market, democratic, and developed country, and how is it at night? It's light. See, energy and freedom are directly connected. And why should you care about this today? You should care about this because our president has policies that are pushing America towards North Korea. Our president has policies, energy policies specifically, that are making energy more expensive and harder to get. Since 2007, the price of electricity has climbed consistently. And that's important to note because since 2007, that time, 2007, 2006, that window of time in there, is the time frame when global warming policies began to impact America's energy policy. In 2006 and 2007 is when most states passed what is called a renewable portfolio standard. How many of you know what the renewable portfolio standard is? Just a handful of you do. This is important to realize because what this is, more than half the states in America have a renewable portfolio standard. And this standard says that in that state, you must have a certain percentage of your energy come from renewable sources, primarily wind and solar. Those sources are, of course, more expensive. They're raising the price of energy. Now, last month I got a phone call. It was a random phone call from a woman I'd never met. And she was irate when she called me. And she said, I am so mad. She said, I have searched the internet to try to find someone who can help me, and I hope you can help. And I said, well, I don't know. What are you calling about? And she said, I am a single mother, unemployed. I live in an 800 square foot apartment. And I don't turn on my heat because I can't afford it. And she said, and I look at my energy bill, and on the bottom of my energy bill is a line item, $1.63 for green energy. And she said, why in the blankety blank am I paying for green energy that I don't give a blankety blank about? And I said to her, first off, don't be mad at the utility company, which is who she was mad at. I said, they're just doing what the law tells them to do. Be mad at your legislators, all the way up to the president, who are the ones that are pushing these green energy policies. This woman, this single, unemployed mother in an 800 square foot apartment without turning on the heat, this is the kind of person President Obama claims to champion. But yet these are the very people that are being hurt by his policies. Energy makes America great. If that's the case, why do we have a president who continually tries to make it more expensive and harder to access? Thank you.
Travis Korsen.
So I'm here for one reason and one reason only, and that is to get the government out of your stomach because it is limiting your choices as a consumer and is costing you money. I'm here to speak about food freedom, specifically what's going on with the GMO fight right now. How many of you are familiar with GMOs? Show of hands. Good, so we've got a pretty good crowd here. For those of you who aren't familiar, GMO stands for genetically modified organisms. And basically it's the fusion of science and of agriculture. They've used some tools in science to develop crops that require less water, are more resistant to drought, to pests, and require less soil, enhanced food quality. But for some reason, the left has had a problem with this and has developed a labeling law against GMOs. One of the big things, and one of the reasons why they want to label it, is they have this pre-cooked up conception that GMOs are not safe. Now, I hate to break it to you, but we've been genetically modifying crops for over 10,000 years. As soon as we started domesticating crops and forcibly crossbreeding plants together, we've been genetically modifying foods. The World Health Organization, the American Medical Association, the FDA have all deemed them perfectly safe, the same as any other kind of food. And 70% of the food in the grocery store that you eat has at least one genetically modified ingredient in it. I mean, it's so predominant now, it'd be like taking bacon and requiring that to be labeled non-kosher. I mean, you know, it's just there. People know it's there. So why do they continue to push for these genetically modified organism labels? Because the industry does not believe in the free market. Rather than advocating for their products on their own, they're trying to use government and they're trying to use other policies to distort the market and pick winners and losers. In 2007, Obama, when he was then candidate Obama, made a pledge to take action on GMOs, saying that consumers have a right to know what's in their food. Activists are currently trying to push through an executive order in the FDA that would declare GMOs material information that must be disclosed. Despite the fact that there is definitive science that there is no danger from GMOs, the left continues to try to harp on and push on these false and not present dangers. Consumers and taxpayers will ultimately be the ones that have to foot the bill for these efforts. States would have to spend millions of dollars to ensure that food is inspected and meeting these new requirements. I shudder to think that there may be even a new state or federal agency created to force these standards as bureaucrats to send on farms and supermarkets and other places, making sure that the labels are being met. And consumers will have to pay more because not only will we have to pay more in packaging costs, that these new labeling and packaging costs that farmers and manufacturers have had to adopt, non-GMO crops cost more to grow. So that it'll be passed along in increased food costs as well. Now, if there's a true market demand there, corporations, these companies will come and meet that occasion. Think of what the soft drink industry did with the calorie labeling on beverages. And some of these companies have actually started meeting together and talking about developing voluntary labeling standards if they see that there's a demand in the marketplace. So that the marketplace will take care of that. We do not need the government to step in and do this. Thank you very much.